Welcome to Via the Grapevine, brought to you by LiquorCity Claremont and offering you the chance to learn more about wine, the masters behind them, and even which wines to collect. And if my calculations are correct, this is the final installment for 2020. What a year it's been, and what a way to finish on a high with a wonderful, wonderful gentleman from an absolutely amazing wine estate that is truly racking up the awards. Situated among the majestic mountains and fertile valleys in the Stellenbosch winelands, approximately 40 kilometers east of Cape Town, is a historic and traditional working wine farm. The vineyards lie on steep slopes of ancient mineral-rich soils in the Bottelary Hills of Stellenbosch, overlooking Cape Town. And it's here that you'll find Tielman and Louis Roos produce a range of environmentally friendly wines that are rooted in tradition and artisan techniques, and that make the most of the very unique terroir. Owner and Cellar Master Louis Roos joins me now. Welcome, Louis. Lovely to see you, sir.
Good morning, Guy.
First up, congratulations. 2 Mooiplaas wines were scored more than 90 points by the renowned British wine master Tim Atkins in the South Africa 2020 report. And Mooiplaas also became the first WWF Worldwide Fund for Nature Conservation Champion in the Bottelary Ward of Stellenbosch. Outstanding achievement. And I was reading up on it, and it says that it acknowledges the environmental responsibility of your production practices. So I thought, well, there's a great place to start. What are some of the practices or factors that contribute to achieving an award like this?
Perhaps we must start with IPW is the acronym that stands for Integrated Production of Wine. The South African industry is actually in the forefront of environmental practices and the assessment of environmental practice. So as you know, a typical wine cellar brings in grapes, crushes it, makes wine, and use quite a lot of water. So this system assesses the production practices of the quality and volume of water that you bring into the cellar, and then also the effluent. There's water effluent and also solid effluent, the pips and the skins and so forth after pressing. So what do you do with these? How do you get them back into the environment in a safe and a positive manner? That's what IPW look at. And also, of course, the other things that you use on the farm. And so there's a system for the farm and a system for the cellar. But what puts us a little bit apart from many other farms is that we are blessed to have a large piece of farm that is still regional, undisturbed Renosterveld fynbos. A full third of the farm, 80 hectares, is a conserved area for Rhinoveld fynbos. And WWF emphasized that must be one of the criteria to become a champion.
It's fantastic that you've put these practices into place, and I think it's also amazing that you've embraced the conservation angle, because I know as a little boy growing up in KZN, my mother always used to throw the term biosphere reserves around. They were relatively new back in the 80s. And it was all about trying to work within the greater area so that, yes, your farmers could still farm, but there was this greater biosphere that was maintaining the environment. And I suppose it's not always that easy with the smaller your property, but hopefully, and I don't know, maybe you're in the realm of chatting with younger winemakers and farmers. Is there a generalized sort of thinking towards trying to conserve what we have, to instead of going into the valleys and absolutely vining up every little scrap of land, we actually start to conserve pockets? I have noticed it on 1 or 2 farms, I think in Elgin, where they do try to keep the ravines as natural.
Yes, yeah, definitely so. We are very cognizant of the fact that we need to be responsible about the environment. And I've always, and our family has always taken the point of view that we never own a farm. You are a custodian of the farm. So you have to look after it, and your prime responsibility is to give it better to the next generation than you have received it from the previous generation.
Yeah.
And in our case, I think we can be proud of the fact that I think that is so. They are our fynbos, our Rhinofeld fynbos is part of the greater Bottelary Hills Conservancy, which is also part of the, as you said, the biosphere, the Western Cape Floral Kingdom, which is a UNESCO site. So it is registered. It's official. It's quite an achievement. My brother was the energy behind that about 20 years ago when he started registering it.
Well done to you. And now it means that we need to look out for that, the Cape Sugarbird sticker that will be Cape Sugarbird on a Protea logo. That's the one that you now get to put on your wines, hey?
That's true. It helps the customer to be able to identify the producers who are champions and hopefully to support their brand. But I can just show you on the bottle. I've got the bottle of Russelin here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Now you see that stamp at the back. That is the normal wine and spirits board stamp. The wine is fine and has been cleared and so forth. But if it's the green one, like that, with the green logo, that means that the producer is part of the IPW.
Battling to hear you, Louis. I think your bottle of wine is blocking the microphone. Sorry.
Okay, let's just start again.
Yes, there we go.
This stamp, if it's got the green logo on it, just check there. You see it's got green artwork on it. At the back of the bottle. Just turn it around. Yeah, there you go. You
got
see
it.
It's green. So you get the plain white one, and then you get the green one. So the green ones implies that this producer is part of the IPW system. That's it. Yes, and you can't see it properly, but it's supposed to be green. And that's but the champion turned even more by carrying, as you said, the Cape Sugarbird in future. That's a WWF logo for the IPW.
Brilliant. Well, that's fantastic. I mentioned it in the introduction. You've got the benefit of unique terroir. Would you mind telling us a little bit about the topography and the soils that you work with from the valley floor right up to the watershed on the top of those hills?
Yes, the Bottelary ward is one of the oldest wards of Stellenbosch. And of course, the major characteristic is the range of hills. And the range of hills stretches from Stellenbosch towards Cape Town. The maximum height is about 430 meters above sea level. So apart from Cape Town and of course the mountains of Stellenbosch, it is actually a fantastic site because if you are on the hilltop, you've got a 360 degree view of the peninsula from Cape Town right around to Table Bay. It's a wonderful. You feel like as though you are in the hills of Tuscany. You know, it is beautiful, and there's no. It's only vineyards and veld up there. So it's also a mountain bike route that people can utilize, and it's a great place. So the things to consider are the elevation that goes up to 400 meters above sea level, and also we are within about 15 kilometers from the ocean, from False Bay. And as you know, the Cape Dock blows every day from about 12 or so, and that keeps the vineyards cool. If that wind changes to the east, the berg wind, then the temperature shoots through the roof. So it's a very important part of our terroir, that coolness. The other thing to consider is being in a range of hills, there are valleys and there are aspects that differ from east to west to north to south. And all those things make for very interesting terroir differences.
And I can imagine that that's what helps you to create such award-winning wines, because you've got this wonderful diversity to play with.
True. True, and we also, of course, are blessed in Stellenbosch, well, in most of the Western Cape, that we have an almost perfect climate to make quality wines. I mean, it's the only Mediterranean, apart from the absolute north coast of Africa, we are the only other Mediterranean spot in the continent of Africa. And being dry in summer is a massive advantage to produce quality grapes, because, as you know, grapes can rot. So summer rain, of course, in this country we never say no to rain, but summer rain can be problematic. But that's also where the wind helps, because the wind will immediately dry the leaves, dry the bunches, and it makes for healthy grapes.
It's what you've just said about summer rain is what interests me so much about the fact that in KZN they are growing grapes and trying to make wine, and not to detract anything from them. I'm still pondering, how do they succeed? Because that's exactly what they have up there. You have thunderstorms, you have soft, misty rain all the way through summer, and then you've got the really dry winters. So it's intriguing to see that they're actually able.
Yeah, it will be difficult. I think in a climate like that, there are other climates worldwide also that has got a continental climate, like Germany, for instance. But I think the varietal choice there is important, because you get varieties that are more rot resistant than others. You know, so something that they will have to consider carefully.
Today, I'd like to consider this, and I'm very grateful to you for the gift. We taste the 2017 Rosalind Bordeaux blend. It was awarded 91 points by Decanter Awards, and by all accounts, a Cab Franc lead red that can be enjoyed now, Louis, or aged. Which do you promote?
Well, I either, but I think, as you said, it's a Bordeaux blend, and it's led by Cabernet Franc, as you mentioned, and Cabernet Franc has a little bit a brighter and a more red fruit to it than Cabernet Sauvignon. The other major component is Cabernet Sauvignon, and then the rest is Merlot and a little bit of Petit Verdot. But I think the Cabernet Franc, as you know, in the old country, in France, Bordeaux, Cabernet Franc is more a right bank variety, Merlot and Cabernet Franc, where Saint-Emilion and those towns are. And it is seen to be a little bit softer, a little bit more approachable than Cabernet Sauvignon is, which is a Medoc variety on the left bank. But for me, it gives a wonderful freshness to the wine. And but the wine has been aged in French oak small barrels for about 2 years, so it's got the guts and the structure and the tannin to age for a long time. We started with 2003, and the wine still drinks beautifully after 17 years, so it can age. I can also point out the vintage. I think it's commonly said that 2015 is the vintage of the decade. Now, I would say that 2017 is at least as good. What I like about 2017 is that the wine has got a wonderful elegance and a freshness to it. So I think 2017 is if listeners can get hold of 2017, I think they must absolutely go for it. It's a fantastic vintage. So you can drink it now, but you can lay it down also.
Buy a couple of bottles and then you drink one each year. I love this label, and also the attention to detail in terms of the fact that Stellenbosch is, what is this? Do you call it embossed in the glass?
Yeah, that's true. It's an effort by the producers in Stellenbosch to emphasize Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch is probably the best known wine brand of South Africa in any market overseas. So if we can enhance Stellenbosch, we also enhance our own brands. So many of the top quality wines in Stellenbosch these days are bottled in the Stellenbosch bottle. It must be, of course, origin Stellenbosch.
And the name Rosalind, who is that named after?
Well, I'm often asked that question. There is not anybody named Rosalind walking the farm. But we are Roos, and it means the beautiful rose. So we thought it's an apt name for a wine like that.
So is it actually Rosalind or Rosalind rather than
No,
Rosalind?
you can. No, Rosalind. You can. It's commonly. Most people will pronounce it Rosalind, and we do too.
Okay, fascinating. Just going back to your acknowledgement from Tim Atkins, would you mind telling us more about the two wines that he acknowledged, the Mooiplaas, and I'm actually lucky enough to have a bottle here as well, the Homewood Bushvine Chenin Blanc 2019, yes, and then the Mooiplaas Pinotage 2019.
Yes, you can see those black labels that you have in front of you. That's from a range, the top range that we produce, which we call Mersha, the Mersha range. My mother was Mersha. And the Homewood is an interesting one because Homewood is the name of a specific vineyard that my father planted in 1972. And for those listeners that don't know Afrikaans very well, Homewood basically means to chin up, not to lose heart, stay strong. That's what you need in agriculture in Africa. So there's an old Bushvine Chenin Blanc vineyard called Homewood on a height of about 300 meters above sea level. A wonderful site. You have a clear line of sight towards False Bay and towards Table Mountain and Table Bay. So it's dry land, which is something. It's planted on a deep red soil that has a wonderful moisture ability to retain moisture. So yeah, and the Homewood goes into barrel. It's a wild fermentation, ferments in barrel, and we keep it for about a year, and that's the wine. And you will see if you taste the wine, tannin is in red wine is everybody knows it, but in white wine, tannins gives a very nice freshness to the wine if it does not overpower fruit. Of course, we don't want it to overpower fruit. So that element, it brings freshness, it brings structure and palate width, and also adds to the complexity of the wine. So I think listeners will like to taste the wine. And you know that Chenin Blanc is fast becoming probably our crown jewel in the white variety sector. We've got the largest footprint of Chenin Blanc in the world. 20% of our footprint is Chenin Blanc.
Mm. And your Pinotage, can you tell us a bit more about that one, the 2019?
Yes, Pinotage, of course, is typically South African. And the Pinotage that was the 2019 or the 2018, I cannot. Which one do you have?
The 2019 was the one, yes, that Tim Atkins.
That's correct. So it's quite young. It's only a year old, almost 2 years now. But Pinotage have the characteristic, especially in the style that we make. We want to make the wine quite fruity and quite accessible, be able to be drunk quite young. And Pinotage have a very soft tannin structure, and it's got a plummy fruit that people often love. So it's a bushvine vineyard. It stays in barrel for about 11 months or so, but older barrels. We do not want to have the oak prominent in the wine. Yes, and it drinks very well. It's our most successful wine in the domestic market, so people like it.
Wow,
that is it. You will see that if people have a look at it on the shelf, the label looks different from the black one that you have, because that's from the family range. That is the middle range that we produce.
Okay, you touched on it earlier, the 2017, the 2015, and the 2017 vintages, and we've heard very high praise for all of those, and I've even started hearing some people across the industry saying that they think the 2020 vintage is going to be exceptional as well. The interesting thing about those two awards that you achieved from Tim Atkins, those are based on your 2018, 2019 harvest. So in a time when everybody else was kind of struggling, what do you credit that success for in terms of gaining those awards on your 2019 Chenin and Pinotage?
2020, as you pointed out, is a fine vintage, especially for white wines, I think. It's a little bit early to say on reds because they are mostly still in barrel, or the more serious reds at least. It's wine. Wine is like many things. You have to pay attention to detail. It's not one big step that makes a wine great. It's a lot of small little steps that you have to take, and everything must be in place in order to achieve great wines. And it starts by the most important thing is firstly what to plant where, because in your lifetime you have about one chance, perhaps two, plant a vineyard. The Homewood vineyard, for instance, is almost 50 years old, so I won't definitely not replant that in my lifetime. So that is a very important decision. And the other decision, of course, is the date of harvest, because in this country, it can be warm in summer, and you have to take it off when the grapes are optimally ripe. So, but apart from that, a lot of things are happening in between, and we have been doing it for a long time. I mean, my family has been in the wine for about 5 generations. So if we don't know by now, we will never know, I suppose.
I like that, and I like that. I'm picking up that it's the secrets to your cellar making, your cellar practices, and it doesn't necessarily only have to rely on vintages or particular years.
I have to give honor to Bertus Basson, our winemaker. He's doing a great job. So the 17 was the last year that I was still doing the day-to-day business, but nowadays he looks after that.
Phenomenal. You have 3 ranges. Would you mind taking us through the philosophies of or highlights of each? You don't have to go into too much detail with each one, but just to kind of share with us why you have 3 and what are the highlights of each.
Okay, let's start at the top. The top, as I mentioned before, is the Mercia range, the black labels, and they are produced only in vintages that we think are outstanding. So the previous Rosalind, for instance, was 2015. Now it's 2017. So we will skip a vintage if we think it's not good enough. The middle range, which most viewers will probably see in the shops and in restaurants and so forth. That's what we call the Roos Family range. It's got a whitish label, and those wines are supposed to be everyday drinking. The whites are not oaked. The reds are quite accessible wines that you can drink at an early age. The Pinotage and a Merlot Cabernet Franc and a Cabernet Sauvignon on the red side. The white side is a Chenin and a Sauvignon Blanc.
Is that the same as the Roos Family Vineyards collection?
The collection is something different. The collection is a range of wine that is especially made for the off trade. It stands on the shelf. So that's wine of origin Western Cape, and it's the bean Pinotage, which is the coffee style Pinotage, and the cocoa Merlot, and the so you'll see the packaging also. It's a totally different approach from the family wines. The family wines are all origin Stellenbosch grapes from the farm. And the collection also, just to conclude, the collection is also all under screw cap. So it is a wine for everyday drinking, rosé and the white, 2 whites, and so forth.
I read somewhere that they related to the younger members of the family. Is that the grape family or your actual family?
I don't know really. We had a marketing manager, Dirk Roos, who passed away sadly a couple of years ago, but he was the originator of the collection. Perhaps that's what they refer to. The bean Pinotage is a wine that is sold in almost 20 countries worldwide. So the wine is doing well for us. Fantastic.
I think I interrupted you. You were on the second tier within your ranges.
Yes, that's the family range, and then the collection we have discussed now, and then we have the Langtafel range is the first range that people will see wherever they are. It's a very affordable range, and it consists at this stage of a rosé and a white and a red wine. So they are also under screw cap. The name Langtafel, as you can imagine, sells well in the Low Countries, in Flanders and Holland. So that's the three ranges that we produce.
And Langtafel is something that you can actually hire, I believe, because hospitality comes in many forms at Mooiplaas. So would you mind sharing what else is available to visitors? You mentioned mountain biking, but besides these award-winning wines?
The farm is open to the public 7 days a week, apart from Christmas and New Year's Day and so forth. People can they can order a picnic basket and enjoy the day with their family in the garden. We are quiet and off the beaten track. The nearest tarmac road is about 3 kilometers away, so there's no through traffic. It's safe, and it's really a nice place to spend the day. They can come for a wine tasting, of course. And then the mountain bike is really a spectacular route that people, you have to buy a permit from the Tygerberg Mountain Club, and then you are welcome. It's not only Mooiplaas, it's all the farms on the Bottelary Hills, from Overgouw right over to my neighbor on the other side, Zevenwacht and Jordan and so forth. So many things to do here. And it's not far from Cape Town. It's only about 25, 30 minutes drive from Cape Town.
Yeah, even quicker during the lockdown period when there were less cars on the road.
True. You have to bite on your teeth to weather the farm road, but I mean, when you get to the end of it, you'll see it's worth it.
Fantastic, Louis. I want to finish off with some quick fire questions that we just get to know you a little bit better, and just the first answer that comes to mind, you can throw it out at me. Favorite grape variety to drink? I know it's a stinker of a question to ask a winemaker, cellar master, but what's the first one that comes to mind?
I love Chenin Blanc. Stylistically, of course, it must be not too big to ripe, but when it's well made, it's a wonderful variety.
Beautiful. Chenin Blanc, there it is. As a bird photographer, what is your lifer? Or for those who don't know what lifer means in the bird circles or birding circles, what would be your dream photo opportunity of a particular bird?
Well, there's no question about that. I would love to return to the Okavango Delta, because for any bird lover, that is paradise. And it's right on our doorstep. It's one of the Edens, hidden Edens of the world that is still unspoiled, and it's right there. And I want to go in summer, because in summer, all the summer birds are there. In winter, you miss the summer birds. So right in the middle of summer, get a big hat and go on the Delta. That's what I would like to do. And I'm planning to do it soon.
You must definitely. I think one of my fondest memories is from a year out of school. 5 of us went up to the Caprivi Strip, and we stayed at a camp, Drotsky's cabins, yes, right on the Delta.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a wonderful 14 days, but the one memory that I have that I tell people on and over about is the African skimmers at sunset in a flock, are just coming past us. You know, we're sitting in the boat and these things just skimming across the water with that beautiful sunset. As you say, it is an absolute Eden, a paradise.
Yes.
So I hope you get your photos. It's fantastic.
Thanks.
Next question is, what is your preference? Does it Moor coffee or a rooibos cappuccino?
No doubt there. Moor coffee is what I go for.
What have you done that you're most proud of, Louis?
Guy, the wine business is a difficult business, as you know. It looks wonderful, but it's not an easy business to have. And I think what we can be proud of as a family is that we were able to adapt. If you are not able to adapt in any business, but especially now with the wine business, then you are dead in the water. So we were able to adapt from a basic wine producing farm 40, 50 years ago that sold wine to the large buyers, those days farmers, winery and distillers and so forth. And we have adapted to selling wine now under our own name to 20, 25 countries worldwide. And I think that's something to be proud of. And I hope we can build further on that legacy.
Yeah, cheers to that. And final quick question for you. Most memorable wine tasting experience?
That's an easy one. I was lucky enough to be invited to a visit Burgundy in, I think it was about 2006, with a neighbor, Dirkie Morkel from Bellevue. And the two Boertjies rocked up in Beaune, and we joined a very high party of winemakers from California. And we were, amongst others, we had a tasting of the famous Montrachet, which is Chardonnay, of course. Nobody calls it Chardonnay there. Montrachet at the Ramonet brothers, who produces this wine. And I remember Paul Ramonet standing and lifting his glass and said he cannot speak one word of English, but he said, "Le Montrachet." And that was one of my most standout wine moments for me.
Fantastic, Louis. Well, thank you for your time today. It's been wonderful chatting. I know we could probably chat for hours on end, but I appreciate your time. And I also appreciate the prize that you've given us. You need to get along to LiquorCity Claremont to buy some of these delicious Mooiplaas wines. They are limited in terms of this particular range. Each bottle is numbered. I don't know if you can see there. So you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. And you could also win. If you fancy your luck, then you answer the easy question here on the Via The Grapevine page, and you could win a picnic for two, including a bottle of wine and a bottle of this Rosalind 2017 Bordeaux blend, the whole thing valued at over 800 Rand. Mr. Louis Roos, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Guy. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. This Via The Grapevine was brought to you by LiquorCity Claremont. Visit their wine emporium for a journey via the Grapevine, and we'll see you again in 2021. Merry Christmas, blessed New Year to all.